Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening everyone. Our top story tonight, Rosebery locals are breathing easier after fighting off a wall of flames on their doorstep during a ferocious bushfire overnight. While their efforts kept the centre of town safe, not everything could be saved, with the local mines suffering damage and a popular guest house destroyed.
Once an oasis in Rosebery's lush green forest, the Mount Black Lodge is now simply black. In the heat of the moment, firefighters captured what they were up against. Their fight to save the timber structure was brave but in vain as the fire won out. Nearby, Mick Jesson had a perfect view as flames leapt into the sky higher than the power lines.
If you were trying to put the fire out, it would have been very difficult to actually see where the flames were with that amount of smoke.
He evacuated, along with many other locals, to nearby Tulla when the danger became too hot. Buildings in the line of fire had no such option. The local heritage centre also ignited. Although most of the relics are intact, the building is badly damaged and smoked out, while the land around it is scorched. A frightful illustration of just how close the threat came to the town itself. On the other side of the road, a local mine worker joined in, putting out a spot fire which other crews hadn't seen.
The miners from MMG Rosebery mine have come across the road to help me with the fire. The local fire brigade, they've backed up and extinguished the fire.
It's lucky they did. The flames were nipping at the heels of a building full of turpentine and other flammables. It's understood the blaze ignited in vegetation before engulfing just under 4 hectares of land and, most devastatingly, the lodge. A mine worker who was meant to be staying here last night told us the owner called him in tears when delivering the devastating news the business had burned down. Thankfully, and perhaps remarkably, the health centre only metres away from the inferno was unscathed, while work has returned to normal at Rosebery's MMG mine, although it suffered some damage.
Initially, we'll have a look at the area of origin based on reports from locals. We've got a bit of information already, photos, initial observations from people that saw where the fire started.
As many as 40 firefighters were deployed, all of them heroes to cafe owner Kevin Matthewson. Their coffees were on the house.
That's the least you could do, isn't it? They saved our town. There was flames behind the Memorial Hall, probably between 50 and 100 feet high above the hall. And I thought, oh dear, I think we're in for a bit of trouble here. And we certainly were.
He wasn't the only one grateful.
Oh, they done an epic job. They really did. You know, everybody else is going that way and they were running in the opposite direction.
Firefighters are now keeping an eye out for any flare-ups over Rosebery's blackened backdrop, an uneasy reminder of the summer's bushfire risk. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
The union representing Tasmania's paramedics is warning industrial action remains a reality. They've slammed the state government for dropping a wage offer just 2 days before Christmas, saying the time frame for consultation is unachievable. The government remains confident, though, an agreement can be reached.
A late Christmas gift. After months of talks, a new wages offer to paramedics has been made by the state government. Early feedback from the union suggests there's room for improvement.
What they've given back to us nowhere meets those key parameters that we'd set and that we want to deliver.
The timing also raising eyebrows. Haxu says the offer was dropped last Friday afternoon, and they were told they had until New Year's Eve to consult members, a time frame the union says can't be met.
But they haven't endeared themselves at all to the paramedic and ambulance workforce by doing what it is that they've done. There is no way possible that we can meet the deadline that the government's imposed.
I do think a deal is achievable at this time of year. I think everybody has come to the table in a real spirit of good faith, a willingness to negotiate.
Labor questioning the tactic.
How they expect anyone to have time to properly consider that offer and respond by New Year's Eve is just completely unreasonable.
The state government, in the meantime, remains confident about their offer.
We've made an offer which we think hopefully is a good one. We're at the table negotiating and we're really looking forward to getting everybody the pay rise that they're looking for.
The two sides will meet again this week to discuss the outstanding issues. A ramping up of industrial action is also on the horizon if a breakthrough can't be found.
If we're not able to resolve this agreement very soon, there will be an escalation in industrial action.
In a spirit of good faith, negotiations will continue and I think an outcome will be achieved.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
To cheers and champagne corks, Comanche has taken line honours again in the Sydney-Hobart Ocean-Going Classic. And while many crews are celebrating, there's a weather alert tonight with horrific conditions expected for the fleet still racing at sea. Meanwhile, Alive is the first Tasmanian entrant to cross the finish line in the race, 7th overall in line honours. The vessel reached Constitution Dock just before 8 o'clock this morning. Other Tasmanian yachts en route to Hobart include Kraken 42S, Midnight Rambler and Hypnotic. Well, a 70-year-old man from Queensland has died after being hit by a falling branch at Tarraleah. Police and emergency services were called to the scene just after 8 o'clock this morning. He was given medical treatment at the scene but didn't survive his injuries. Motorists have been urged to travel with caution, with reports of trees blocking several sections of the Lyell Highway. Tasmania's tourism industry says it would welcome a restructure of working holiday visas to help fill critical gaps in the sector. Calls are growing for the federal government to lift the age of eligibility from 35 to 50. Tasmania's Tourism and Industry Council says a net needs to be widened as low unemployment and the recent COVID border restrictions have left many operators struggling to recruit.
We need to get them back, and the reality is we're competing in the same market as every other destination in Australia, and we need to get our share of as much as anyone.
The federal government has pledged to slash visa processing times and raise permanent migration. Thousands have packed the Taste of Summer festival following an overwhelming response to the event's opening night. Everything from music to delicious local creations, enticing Tasmanians and holidaymakers alike.
Sampling some of our best food and wine in true Tassie style.
We've got beautiful food and drink from all the way around Tasmania, and we've got a lot of music acts from the northwest and the east coast. It's a lot for people to experience in one place.
Tasmania's Taste of Summer saw around 6,000 people through the gates for last night's opening. Locals and tourists keen to sample some of the state's best, with over 75 different stalls on offer over the next 5 days. While for stall holders, it's about vital exposure.
We're reaching literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people Australia-wide. Last night I had a lot of people from Brisbane. I also had quite a few international people, quite a few people from America.
Despite today's events pushed back an hour due to wild winds, everything from beetroot bao buns to sangria to oysters made their way onto the plates of hungry attendees.
We probably sold at least 300 to almost 400 dozens yesterday.
Those who attended giving their tick of approval.
Some tacos, we've had some mushrooms.
Good, well, it's all Tasmanian stuff and the sparkling.
And it's not just food on the menu. There's over 40 Tassie music acts set to hit the stage over the next few days, while huge crowds are expected for New Year's Eve, with Aussie music icon Daryl Braithwaite set to make an appearance. And it's welcome news for Hobart's tourism industry, with hospitality and accommodation providers reaping the rewards of a spike in holidaymakers.
What I want everyone to do is trot down from the city, come down, see it for yourself, have a look at the yachts. Come in here, have a great day out with your family. It certainly is family friendly, so I would encourage everybody to roll out, come down and enjoy the taste.
Ruby Cairns, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmania's mountain biking story is travelling to the east coast, with tourists expected to flock to St Helens during the holidays. It's a welcome boost for local businesses who have been riding through the challenges posed by the pandemic.
Pumping up the tyres of the East Coast as the state's mountain biking scene takes off, with St Helens a popular landscape for riding enthusiasts.
I'm definitely super excited to see just how busy we are going to get. It definitely makes me a little bit nervous.
St Helens tracks in particular are great for families and for beginners, but also experienced riders, so there's some amazing experiences.
But it hasn't been all smooth riding for biking businesses, with a few roadblocks along the way.
Having the store closed was definitely a bit rough on the business. We did lose a couple of staff members as well. But since reopening, we've definitely gained a lot of momentum.
The COVID pandemic playing a pinnacle role in the closure, But tourism operators are looking forward to a strong summer season.
This is the first year that the mountain bikes in St Helens have had access to the borders being completely open, so we're really excited to see what this summer brings.
Definitely over Christmas and New Year we have a lot of pre-bookings already in, so if anyone is interested in coming, definitely we recommend to pre-book. So you don't miss out.
The beautiful Bay of Fires trails are one of the main draw cards.
It's a world-renowned trail, 43 k's of just beautiful scenery. That was one of the main attractions for starting the business here.
With Vertigo mountain bikes riding off the back of its successful Derby store, travelling to the east coast for a change of scenery.
We've also got Flagstaff Trailhead, which is all of the green stacked loops. So they're perfect for anyone who wants to try mountain biking, give it a go, anyone who wants to build up their skills.
The perfect place to learn the basics of the bike. McKenna Bailey, 7 Tasmania News.
Well, summer heats up. Tasmanians are being urged to keep an eye out for snakes, which are also taking advantage of the warmer weather. It's a timely warning, with Reptile Rescue saying a number of pets have already fallen foul of a slithering surprise.
For Ashley Bishop, wrangling reptiles is all in a day's work. This copperhead was plucked from a property at St Leonard's, but it's not the strangest place he's ever snatched a snake.
Strangest place I've ever pulled a snake out of was between a man's legs while he was on the toilet. Yes, so that was a very shocking experience.
The legless critters don't pose a problem for the keen ophiophilist.
And I've always loved me reptiles, always loved snakes, and yeah, I just want to get out there and help rescue them.
With the weather warming up, scaly encounters are on the rise, along with the risk to both people and pets. According to Reptile Rescue, at least half a dozen dogs have already been bitten this season.
There's been a lot of contact with dogs and snakes at the moment, and the worst thing about them, they both leave with their mouths.
The group is expecting more than 100 calls a day through the height of summer as snakes move about, on the lookout for a shady spot or a drop of water.
If you've got nice shortcut lawns and no rubbish around, chances of having a snake are highly unlikely.
Keeping a bowl of water on your property boundary can also keep them from coming too close. And if you're treated to a serpent surprise, keep a close eye on it and call in the experts.
You look at your snake bites for Tasmania, we have about 10 a year, give or take, and normally 70-75% of those are people trying to catch or kill the snake.
Hoping to avoid a decision that will come back and bite. Annie Green, 7 Tasmania News.
Labor leader Rebecca White claims her party has bounced back from a difficult 2021, saying she's proud of the way they've campaigned on cost of living this year. It wasn't without challenges though, as internal troubles made headlines again. In the second of our 4-part series looking back at the year's biggest political stories, the Labor leader maintains the party is better off for the mid-year federal intervention.
It's the political football that's landed at Mac Point, and Labor isn't afraid to play kick to kick.
We're arguing that instead of putting a roof over a stadium, the government needs to put a roof over the head of Tasmanians.
The proposed AFL stadium has provided many a parliamentary punchline this year, claiming spending priorities and 4 cabinet resignations, including a premier, show a government that's lost its way.
And really out of touch with what the community is talking the most about, which for the Tasmanian community would be cost of living.
Only a year ago, it was Labor's internal issues making headlines as factional warfare sunk an election campaign.
There's no doubt last year we weren't at our best, but this year we've been a good, stable, determined, focused group who are working really hard.
There were hopes it was behind them, but in July this year, the National Executive intervened in the State Labor Party, installing former Senators Doug Cameron and Nick Sherry as administrators.
The party in Tasmania needs to look forward to having great policies on housing, on education, on homelessness, on jobs.
I have a very strong relationship with the co-administrators. We work closely together, implementing the recommendations that were made after the review was undertaken into the 2021 state election. That work's progressing really well.
Believing the party's struggles are now in the past.
I'm confident that the work that is happening within the Labor movement is going to give us the best chance to win government in 2025, and ultimately that's what it's about.
And so begins the challenge of building a winning policy platform. Traditional party strong points like health and housing to be front and centre.
There are 55,000 Tasmanians waiting to see a specialist. that those people will then need to go onto another waiting list to get elective surgery. That we've got paramedics who are looking to take industrial action because often they're crews down and can't respond to emergencies in our community.
Having just released Labor's power price policy, she's calling for relief next year.
I believe that the cost of living is going to continue to put a lot of pressure on households and businesses, and we will see that continue across the course of the next 12 months.
The state's failings were highlighted this year in the Commission of Inquiry into Child Sexual Abuse in Institutional Settings. Like many Tasmanians, she was shocked by the harrowing evidence, particularly from health settings.
The hearings around the LGH would have been the most difficult for not only the staff and patients there, but I think the community to hear, and the response by the leadership at the LGH to some of those matters really didn't meet expectations.
Praising recent action on health governance and calling for more. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
And the 50th edition of the Melbourne to Hobart is well underway. The fleet of 49 are travelling along the west coast with Maritimo the front runner. Advantage is the leading Tasmanian yacht, currently in 3rd place. Meanwhile, on the other side of the state, day 2 of the Launceston to Hobart yacht race is nearing a close, with the 9 competitors making their way around the Freycinet Peninsula. Fork in the Road is forging well ahead of the fleet, tracking around 4 hours in front of second-placed Heatwave. If current conditions continue, the first yacht is expected to cross the finish line tomorrow around mid-morning. Today's scheduled race meet at Elwick Racecourse has become a victim of the wild winds that battered the state. Tasmania's Office of Racing Integrity says the 9-race card was postponed for safety reasons. The meet will now be held on Friday, with all scratchings eligible to be reinstated. The first race will be run at 2:45, with the last taking place at 7:30. And an early shock in the Launceston wheel races, with Josh Duffy failing to make today's final. A short time ago, Malaysia's contingent boxed out all rivals to cause a boilover in the men's wheel. Abdulazim bin Ali crossing the line first. Drama early in the women's wheel final, with one rider falling moments after the race began. Victoria's Amelia Mulhern held her lead after the bell to claim the title. Commonwealth Games cyclist Christina Clonan came second.
Good evening. It was a mostly cloudy day across Tasmania today with strong northwesterly to westerly winds. 29 in Hobart, Launceston 24, 22 across Devonport and Burnie. Flinders Island and Bushy Park 28, 27 in St Helens and Grove 29. Mostly cloudy skies are seen over Tasmania, especially to the west, with some thunderstorms in the cloud band off the east coast. Further out, a low to high level cloud band is seen over central western parts of the Northern Territory. Tomorrow, possible light showers about the north, looking fine elsewhere. West to southwesterly winds tomorrow 15 to 25 knots, reaching 20 knots in the north. Swells up to 4 metres in the west and south and up to 1 metre in the north. A strong wind warning is current for the lower east coast and south east coast. Tomorrow's forecast now, partly cloudy across Hobart and New Norfolk, Cygnet 20. In the north, Launceston and Campbelltown cloudy, 20 in Devonport. Burnie and Smithton tomorrow, partly cloudy, 19 in Strahan. St Helens and Swansea, 19 and cloudy in Fingal. The UV forecast is mostly very high 10s across the state. Looking ahead to Friday now, showers developing about the north and east, mostly fine elsewhere. Saturday, possible thunderstorms in the west. And Sunday for your New Year's Day, showers about the north extending statewide in the afternoon. Capital cities 35 and sunny in Perth tomorrow. Adelaide 24 and a shower or two in Cairns. And currently Hobart, partly cloudy and 18, Launceston 22 and Devonport clear and 20. That's all in weather, Kim.
And that is all your news for now. We'll be back later with updates. Thanks for joining us this evening. Good night.